Negotiation.
When do we want them?
Now.
What do we want?
Negotiation.
When do we want them?
Now.
Okay, people. What do we want?
Negotiation.
When do we want them?
Now.
What do we want? Negotiation.
Welcome to today's program. It is Lost Homes, Disrupted Lives. And with me, I have three of the individuals who have been affected. On my right, I have Howard.
How are you? Glad to be here.
Howard is with the Pleasant Street property. On my left, I have Calvin.
Thank you.
And Calvin, would you state your full name?
Sure, my name is Calvin Braxton, and I live at the Maple Street property.
And further to my left is Damon. Damon, would you identify yourself?
My name's Damon Cyphers.
And you were also a resident that has since relocated of the Pleasant Street property. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Thank you. Perhaps you wondered, what is the purpose of this show? The purpose of this show is to inform the viewer of what is happening between Malden Tenants Union, which is the organized tenants who are being given a notice of their impending eviction. In other words, if you cleaned out a dresser drawer, you remove all the articles, but before you fill that drawer with anything else, you go with a waste paper basket and take the drawer, invert it, and bang it against the sides. Knock out the dust and everything that's unwanted. Well, essentially, Alpha Management Corporation is doing exactly this. They're taking these apartment buildings and over to the dustbin and inverting them and banging them against the side and knocking out the living creatures so that they can go ahead and revamp the existing apartments. In one case, the Pleasant Street buildings are built in 1929. They're redesigning them and going to rent them to a lucrative market, which is primarily students. And we wanted to show you that this impersonal manner in which this is proceeding is detrimental to the lives of many residents and people connected with this. But not only that, it will eventually be detrimental to the city of Malden, because Malden is faced with this problem. If it is not addressed, ameliorated, and decided how it should proceed further, it will proceed uncontrolled. Already, partitions have been erected, and no one has ever seen a building permit outside of the building. That is one step that is always required in any municipality before construction can proceed. It hasn't happened yet. How many other things are not getting the required permits or inspections? Malden has existed in a rather benign state where people come and do their business in a polite and a decent manner in which they expect to do the right thing. And that has been the rule here in Malden. That is now threatened when people come in and do it their own way. And that is why we bring you these proceedings. Let's start with Calvin. When did you first learn that the buildings, or the building that you lived in, was no longer owned by the old landlord?
That would have happened late April. I came home one evening, I believe it was a Sunday, April 27th or 28th, somewhere in there, and there was a notice slipped under my door saying that the buildings had been sold. And underneath that was a notice from the new owners alerting us of what our new rent would be.
Well, that must have been like a blow to the stomach.
Well, it was very shocking. It was shocking indeed.
It was a notice to quit or pay the new rent.
And how did you feel the new rent was?
Well, I thought it was exorbitant that they went from $200 to $300 a month on an apartment that I had been in for 27 years and paid a normal rent increase to cover the cost of running a business. And it was just an outrageous thing to do across the blanket to everybody without looking into what the condition and what the apartments were, in what shape they were in, and how he had adjusted market rate. What is market rate?
And Damon, how did you feel when you first discovered a notice under your door?
Well, I was actually sitting in my living room and I saw two pieces of paper come under my door. And so I picked them up and I opened the door, and there was the former maintenance man's sign that was made to deliver these notices, the notice of the property being sold, as well as the notice to quit and the increase in rent. And my immediate reaction is I stood there and looked at Cy and I went, oh! Because it took me quite by surprise. But I did see it come under my door, so.
After you get a while, it takes a while to digest something like that. The shock paralyzes you for some time before you're able to start thinking again. And what was your reaction to this?
I was just dumbfounded that, first of all, this could happen, these increases. And I thought of like a lot of the elderly tenants that live there, disabled people, and I was like, well, I certainly can't afford this, so how can people on limited income afford it? And it really got to the point that it really began to create some health stress on me, and I was advised to go, to move somewhere else.
And and you followed up on this movement, and did you not?
Yes, I did, and I decided to stay as a part of MTU because I was a building leader, because I believe in its purpose, I believe in its mission, and I believe in its objective to help everyone.
Well, what I can't figure out is how this landlord, this new owner, realizes that he can intimidate people by giving out eviction notices. And when people have moved out in droves, I think about 50 people have moved out at an average of $1,000 a month. He's lost on the apartments $50,000, and he hasn't been able to rent these apartments. So how does he figure what is acceptable rent? He can't rent them out, so this gives us a cause to pause. Why does he think the value of his market rate in Malden?
Part of the plans are beginning to be visible to the rest of us, all of us. You saw in the basement of one of the buildings on Pleasant Street some of the supplies the new landlord has laid in. Can you tell me what they were?
Sure. Well, I can go one step further to say that in my building, at least, there are 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms that are original to the building.
Yes.
And it has come to our attention, recently that he is taking some of the 1 bedrooms and making 2 bedrooms out of them. So those building supplies that were at the basement of Pleasant Street were for putting up walls and making a closet. And one apartment that used to be the living room is now a bedroom. And what used to be the dining room is now the only living space in that apartment. It's supposed to be, the dining room is not huge, it's not a very large space, but it now is the living area and the dining room, and, because the other living room is now a bedroom. So, yeah, apparently he's altering the structures.
And I was also informed that in my old unit that I vacated, they rented it out within 2 weeks, and there's 3 girls living in there. And
Sorry, what size apartment?
it was a 1-bedroom, and there's 3 girls living out of 1 bedroom, small bedroom,
you can't do
living
that.
room.
You can't do that.
And it was barely enough for 1 to live in because the apartments are so small.
My trouble with the new landlord is that he's intimidating people by using legal means, evicting instead of negotiating. He's not talking to us to give us, to get the whole story and how he can benefit by doing right by the tenants that have been there. I've been in the building 27 years, and I've had dealings with the other landlord. They weren't the greatest, but you could talk to them and you could iron out things, and they went along with a normal rent increase, and we had a satisfactory relationship. This fella comes in and he wants to intimidate people using legal means, not talking to people. And he should remember, people have a human, and they should be treated with dignity. This intimidating and giving people notice that you don't matter, my profits matter, that's not right.
And also, we learned something at the courthouse yesterday, which Calvin actually witnessed, and I heard of it after the fact, that it was said by one of Mr. Feisel's nephews, and I believe his name is Mansour or Mozar, that anyone that fills out a discovery form will be evicted, that is grounds for eviction. So it's retaliatory, intimidating type situation, and Calvin knows a little bit more about that.
Would you explain it, Calvin?
Sure. Well, in that particular case, it's a little bit convoluted in the story, but that resident had signed some papers that, from my understanding, she didn't exactly know, what she was signing. Several papers had been shoved under her door. She had received, I think, more than one notice to quit, even though she had paid the rent. So there seemed to be some misunderstanding there. And so she didn't know, because she wasn't a part of MMTU.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't a part of MMTU, so she didn't really know anything about, she didn't really know what her rights were.
Exactly.
Yeah, she didn't really know what her rights were. And so, at the courthouse yesterday, when a few members of MMTU questioned her and said, you have some rights here, you don't have to sign everything away, the representatives from Alpha Management stepped in and said, because, if she does discovery, she's going to be evicted. I mean, because she hadn't done any of that, and she wasn't planning on doing that, but we thought, well, at least take, your opportunity for your rights. And so, he did step in and he did say that.
And there you have it. There is what we call lost homes, disrupted lives. And people are having their lives disrupted by this losing of their homes, having to relocate, and the expense of relocating. Many people are not capable of moving furniture themselves, and they will have to hire people to manage this and trucks to move for them when they find out another home, if they wherever they can.